are we? I think it's about 7, isn't it? Okay, so let's make a start. So last week, we finished the section in the book on relationship traps. And we have looked in that section, we've looked at the relationship myths and traps that we fall into. Hello, Billy. Hello. There you go. The relationship traps that we fall into, that we can get stuck in. So we looked at the soulmate myth, and we looked at the twin flame trap. And last week we looked at the wounded healer, or the healer rescuer. So this week we're going to start on chapter 3. And this is, whoops, hold on. No, chapter 4. Sorry, I thought that was weird. Chapter 4. So we're going to look at what I call the resistance on the wire. So let's just recap, because last week we were looking at a client of mine called Mary. And Mary had been in a lot of difficult relationships. She had reset her energy. She made a clear declaration of what she wanted. She did everything right, and she manifested a better relationship. She manifested a relationship that was emotionally available and was loving, except that the guy that she attracted to her was still under the water, controlling, micromanaging, and critical, even though he kept saying that he was doing it with love. Because under the water, she was still manifesting with the same basic energy. And the problem with that energy is that it was getting in the way of what she actually wanted. And that I call in this book resistance on the wire, because you're sending out your signal as to the relationship that you actually want, but there's something in the way, there's something causing resistance. And chapter 4 is all about that. So here we go. Are you sitting comfortably? Chapter 4, resistance on the wire. Mary's experience was such a common one. When the book and the subsequent movie The Secret hit the airways back in 2006, it launched a whole new way of seeing energy and how we navigate it. The term manifestation was coined, and there was a huge amount of excitement around what was possible. This then led to confusion, disappointment, and considerable disillusionment. That's a considerable disillusionment, as people discovered it wasn't quite as simple as the think and grow rich thing. The basic premise is not wrong. Do you know what? I can't get my teeth in tonight. Okay, let's start that again. The basic premise is not wrong in and of itself, but while it works to an extent, it doesn't go the whole way, as Mary discovered. Hello, Rahini. Lovely to see you. As Mary discovered. So it's no good manifesting up a storm inside if we're battling with fear, insecurity, and more red buttons than a Las Vegas slot machine. Now, the fact is, we can't attract what we don't vibrate with. And if we're going to work some magic, we have to make sure we're doing it from a clear position. Now, remember, the Fool in Tarot, he's number 0. Because he isn't carrying anything with him energetically that will impede his jump into something new. Now, the first part of any manifestation work is to create a big, bold, beautiful picture of what we want. But that's not all. That beautiful picture you've created as your ideal relationship experience must also resonate authentically with your own energy. Anything that does not creates resistance in the wire. Now, the wire refers to the communication channel on which you're transmitting. The resistance creates static in the signal, and to clear the signal, we must get rid of the static, or the stuff that isn't resonating with the new improved message. Hello. The new improved message. Where am I? Here we go. Any and all of that fear, trauma, and belief systems that have contributed to the old signal will just keep the same results coming back in a different form as a hybrid of some kind. The best version possible based on this new set of signals, but still not right. So what appears in your life is a translation of what you're transmitting with consistent emotion. Now, we have so many thoughts every day, we simply can't control them all. And it's a bit terrifying to think that should a negative thought dare to cross our minds, there will be consequences. However, you'll be relieved to know that transient thoughts have very little power. What makes the difference are the repeated patterns of thinking that form your attitude, especially those that have an emotional load behind them. Positive or negative, that's the fuel that propels your rockets of desire or fear into the energetic field. Now, it's not the content itself that has the power. It's the strength of repetition and the emotional power that fuels it. That signal that you generate is filled with your stuff. It's like a code that can be picked up and read by others as a way of finding similar stuff that fits with the version of the world you've chosen to make. Now, it works not unlike the way Google or Facebook reads your data to send you targeted ads. Now, the problem gets trickier when we start to suspect we have no idea what we're transmitting under the water. Our subconscious has been learning since our first minutes of awareness, and there are often coping mechanisms that have been in place since childhood. They're now informing and messing with our relationship experiences in adulthood. Now, this is where we might need a bit of help from someone else to help find and identify what's actually driving the bus, so to speak, so we can take back the wheel and change the route. Chapter 5. Is there anybody there? Now, this is a big deal, and this is what really screws people up when they're trying to change their relationship energy. One of the reasons we get stuck with the curse of permanent potential, or we give up altogether, is because we think nothing better actually exists. Let's look again at the idea of energetic resonance. Now, if we let go of the idea of physical bodies for just a minute and imagine ourselves as pure energy, all we would be an energetic signature. Now, when we turn on Bluetooth on our device, it asks you if you should search for nearby devices to connect with. Now, Bluetooth is a very particular energy signature, so it can detect similar energy signatures. It won't, for instance, hop on to somebody else's Wi-Fi or hotspot off their data. Now, to be visible, you must turn on your Bluetooth setting and choose who you want to share with. Safe in the knowledge your device won't be visible to anyone who isn't in exactly the same setting as you. So, this is important. The reason it feels like there's no one out there is because you're invisible to anyone who is not a match to your current vibration. And they are also invisible to you. Change your energy and you change who's attracted to you and who in turn you are attracted to. Fear, insecurity, desperation, while understandable, are not a perfect match to a high vibrational signal, and so will attract potential partners who on some level will recognize and feel comfortable with that lower energy call. Now it feels familiar as we've already discussed. Changing your energy might feel unfamiliar, but to be visible to something different, we must be prepared to get uncomfortable and to challenge how we think and what we choose. Now, not in a miserable way, just in a prepared to raise the stakes in a good way, a kind of let go of what's there now and make everything different kind of way. Now, it takes courage, but it works. And if you can get the energy right, it's all a matter of resonance. Now, today I met with a client, so we'll call her Sarah. That's not today, that's when I wrote the book today. We'll call her Sarah, who was about to get stuck in the realm of permanent potential. Now, the guy who was holding her so transfixed was showing up as a powerful avatar for her perfect guy, or so she kept saying. Now, he, on the other hand, had been insisting to her that he was not interested in a partnership relationship, but would like a more flexible arrangement. Now, he was constantly traveling and had a career that he was working on. Sarah was determined to wait, though, truly believing it was just a matter of time, and she told me very clearly that she was fine with it. She didn't want to spend all her time with someone, and that she understood his position entirely, and she would be perfectly happy to work with this arrangement if perhaps his position might soften down the line. Thus the request for a reading. Now, I told her that I disagreed with her description of her position. It was very clear from her reading that that was definitely not true. What she actually wanted was a life partner and a family, and she was literally telling herself something that wasn't true, bending her version to fit with this chap's worldview. And we explored the timeline to 5 years in the future. What if he still wouldn't budge? Sarah travels to some point in the future, and another clear no from our chap. Now, our man was just not up to it, seeing himself as a lone wolf who wanted his life the way he wanted it. Now, in response to this, my lovely client Sarah became mightily cross. She told me she had spent a year working on herself, so why had this guy, who had been on the periphery of her life, suddenly step forward? It must mean something. I mean, it all felt right, other than his inconvenient disinterest in an actual relationship, of course. The guy's energetic call was for a woman who would be prepared to adjust to his position, and she had shown up in this energy field because she was the perfect resonant match for him. His version of what he wanted was set in stone. She was not, like him, prepared to walk if he wasn't in alignment with her vision. In fact, she didn't have a strong vision at all. She said she wanted a guy who inspired and excited her. She loved travel and adventure, so this guy appeared to tick all the boxes, but she wasn't committed to her big picture. Now, she then asked what was in store for her. If she accepted, he would never give her a family and a committed relationship, which she did eventually reluctantly admit was what she actually wanted. Now, I explained the only way she could get that would be to fill the space in her life with what she actually wanted, not a waiting game that just served somebody else's agenda. Sarah then shared that she was also seeing another guy. The second guy offered everything she wanted, except of course she couldn't stop thinking about Mr. Lone Wolf, who had the energetic pull of a tractor beam. Now, she said she felt a bit ambivalent about the second guy, and he was waiting for her to commit either way. The irony of what was happening energetically between these three was rather amazing. Now, I suggested to Sarah that she would clear the decks and start again, that it would be best if she did that, but she didn't want to be left with the dreaded space. And so she decided she would continue seeing Fallback Guy until she decided not to, and then see what happened with Mr. Lone Wolf Guy along the way. Now, the problem was Sarah hadn't really done the work. She'd done a great surface job on herself, but not underneath. The energetic loop that had been created was understandably frustrating for Sarah, with potentially heartbreaking ramifications. Now, the fact is, guys, you're not the only one working the magic here. You're also at the mercy of those around you who have a stronger signal version than you. Sarah's mixed signals were creating havoc with her attraction strategy. It's not just a matter of whether you have attracted them. The question is, how have they attracted you? What's in your energy field that is so attractive to this near miss? So, next week, we're going to be looking at chapter 6, which asks us to choose the relationship, not the person. And that's going to be a really, really interesting step forward. Now, if anybody's new on this series and wants to have a look at the other videos, I think they are in my playlist on Instagram, and also you can also catch them on my YouTube channel. We've put them all up there as well, so you can always catch all of the previous chapters if you want to. Okay, so let's draw some cards. Now, if anybody has a question they want to ask me, just type it and I'll get to it. I'm going to kick things off by taking a card for what we've been reading about today, and let's see what comes up. And in the meantime, have a think about what you want to ask. Jump in and type it and we'll see. So here we go. So I'm using my deck, the Life Code deck. Very beautiful deck. Let's have a look. Okay. The Sun. The Sun is one of the most universally positive cards in tarot. It's one of the very few, almost completely universally positive cards in tarot. The Sun refers to us being able to see clearly and feeling free and feeling joyful. Look at this card. Look, isn't that great? It's freedom and joy with nothing hidden. Now, that's the thing. This is the advice card about what we've just been reading about. And when we think about the idea of joy, yeah, we start to get a bit weird, don't we? Because we're not used to joy. And joy kind of feels like an optional extra in relationships, but relationships are not supposed to be miserable. Guys, they're not supposed to be miserable. Now, the idea around the Sun card in tarot is that we have been through the fear. The previous card is the Moon, and that refers to fear. So we've been through the fear, we've been through the dark, and now we're not afraid anymore. We can see everything clearly, and we can see life for what it really is. And we are energetically being free of fear. We feel great. Our energy has risen and we are vibrating on a higher energy. That makes us feel awesome. Now, when you feel awesome, you're going to attract a similar energy. When you know how it feels to feel awesome, you're going to know when a relationship means that you don't feel awesome. If a relationship means you don't feel awesome, you've got to know the difference. You've got to know what's awesome and what's not. And that awesome is you, right? That means that means you can tell the difference between what's good for you or not. So that's why the Sun is such an important card, because it gives us clarity. And it tells us that when we feel great, that's our default, or that should be our default position. We should feel great by just baseline. So when we're looking for a relationship, we want to look for a relationship from that position. We don't want to start a new relationship or look for a relationship when we're fearful, when we're disillusioned, when we're scared to commit, when we're frightened somebody else might not commit. It's a terrible energetic mix, because what that happens is when you come into a relationship arena with that energetically in play, you are going to attract people who also resonate with that energy, which that's not going to give you the result you actually want. So when we know what feels good, we can then make the decision to reject what doesn't feel good. And because we feel good anyway, we're not going to panic when what comes back is not great. We're not going to feel tempted to bend our vision like Sarah did, to bend our vision to suit somebody else's agenda, because we want to squeeze them into our mold of what we think we want, even though they've got their own deal going on and it isn't ours. So that's really important. Does that make sense to everybody? Any questions, just let me know. Okay, so I'm going to take one more card for you. Energy work is simple and scary at the same time. It's simple because it basically, whatever we are feeling, whatever is inside us, we know is being transmitted out into the energetic field. And that can be a bit of a scary thing. So how do we control it? We control it by making sure that the way we feel is what we want. And then we will attract a similar energy. We can't fake it, sadly. Now look, we're not perfect. Nobody is perfect. And nobody is suggesting that we should be perfect. But it's all about making sure that we're happy with ourselves. We're happy with ourselves authentically. We don't have to be perfect. We just have to like ourselves. And we have to be prepared to commit to ourselves and commit to who we actually are at our core. And if we can't commit to who we actually are, if we think there are bits of us which are just frankly unacceptable or unloving, how can we then expect to hide that and still be authentic? We can't. So we have to get comfortable with ourselves, comfortable and have, I know that the term self-love, oh my God, it just sounds so yicky, and doesn't it? Instagram kind of, love yourself stuff. I get it. But there is truth at its core. We have to be able to get comfortable with who we are authentically. You don't have to be perfect. And you don't even have to see yourself as perfect. But you certainly have to see yourself as good enough and lovable and amazing in your imperfection. And that is the key to this. That's the key. Let's take one more card. So here we go. So this is the Four of Cups. Now this is an interesting card, because when we look at this guy is resistant to what's being offered. So energetically, he's quite flat and unimpressed, and just not interested in this emotional opportunity that is being handed to him. Now, when we just read about Sarah, who was really at her core wanting a long-term committed relationship, And the guy that she was kind of, transfixed by, lone wolf guy, he was not impressed by her call for a long-term relationship. It was not what he wanted. He was like, yeah, what? No, if that's what you want, then you're not my girl, right? He was very clear that he was not interested in her offering. So what she was trying to do is make herself into him, or make herself into what he thought she would want. But look at him. Really? Is that what we're doing? Are we trying to make ourselves amenable to this bloke? This bloke who can't even be bothered to return calls, or can't even be bothered to turn around and join us halfway. But so many of us do that, don't we? We try and get this guy's attention. We desperately try and make him take notice of us so that we'll be chosen. But in fact, he's not a good energetic match, and we're wasting our time. Now, the fact is that we have got to turn into ourselves. We've got to turn into this with our own energetic agenda. Lone Wolf Guy was very clear about what he wanted, and he could sum it up because he was under no doubt at all that he could get what he wanted. So he did. And that's the thing. And he was resistant to anything that wasn't what he had ordered up. It's like, I don't even see you. Now, this is what happens when we're trying to, when we're, this fits the bill with so much of this energy work, because you're out there with your energy. People who are not an energetic match for you can't see you. They're not even aware of you, and you're not aware of people who are not a good energetic match for you, not a proper. You can get near misses, which is maybe what happens. We have to make sure we're clear about what we want, and we have to not try and make other people squeeze into our mold, and we have to make sure that we don't try and we don't make ourselves into what somebody else wants. So also that we don't try and attract people who are not what we want. It's really important. Imagine how awesome it would be if we could get both people offering all this lovely emotional energy and it was a joint match. And that's what we need to look for. What is authentic? What's real? What do you really want? How do you really feel? We keep it hidden. It's important to be truthful, to be real with ourselves. So how does that make sense, guys? Give us a wave or let me know what your thoughts are. Everybody's being very quiet. Okay, let's take one more card to sum this up. Oh, thank you. That's a lovely love heart. Thank you. Oh. Two of Wands. Two of Wands in tarot. I'm going to wave at Lady Lisa one. Two of Wands in tarot is a choice. It's a choice of which way to go. Now, what happens when we choose one road is that we walk down that path and we have all the experiences that there are for us down that path. And the same with the other path, different set of experiences. We have to choose our energy, choose which way to go. Now, if we choose an energy which is not an authentic match, or is not what we actually want, and try and make it fit, all the experiences that we get from that choice are going to be in alignment with that energy. And often then we can't understand what's going wrong. But the fact is, on some level, we chose it. And that's important. Look at that. We have to choose the energy. We have to choose what is the right energetic match. And if we choose other than what we actually want, and we hang around trying to wait for somebody else to catch up with our vision because we think, you know, that will make us happy, then we're going to get what's down that path. And we're going to carry on walking down that path until we decide to make a different choice. It won't magically right itself. And that's the point. And that's what's so important about this energy work, choice. This is not destiny, guys. This is choice. I don't read from the position of destiny. I read from the position of choice. So that's what makes our path, the things we choose. And that's why it's so important that we understand completely how to make the right choices and how to know when the choices are not going to lead us to what we actually want. Okay, well, thank you for joining me today. It's been lovely to see you all. And I hope that was okay. I hope that was interesting. And I will be back here next week at 7 o'clock. And I will, hopefully, you'll come back and join me then. And once again, if you want to look at the previous chapters that we've been reading and doing exactly this, you can find them on YouTube. They're all on there for you to have a look at. Janis Tarot Reader. You can find London Tarot. You'll find mine. Just Google Janis King. You'll find me. And I will see you next week, if not before. Thank you very much. Good night. Have a lovely, lovely evening. Good night.